listening to President Bush's speech.
The road to Kuwait City and the road to victory, seen live by the President and across America.
On the expressway, people went by waving flags, giving us the V for victory and the clenched fist. We didn't know if we'd be the first. And the farther we got in, the more we realized this is a city that has not been visited by anybody from outside for a very long time.
Everywhere, the evidence of occupation and a 40-day war. An ambulance riddled by shell fire. Further on, an Iraqi army lorry abandoned.
But there's no question that as we stand here, Kuwait City is a free city, and as far as these people are concerned, the Iraqi army is on its way out of Kuwait.
Huddled round an American reporter, Kuwaitis began telling breathless tales of how Iraqi soldiers murdered men, women and children.
Some of the people, they take them, they shoot them in the houses, they bring them in the house, they shoot them in front of their mother. I swear to God, he's not married, he's 18 years old, he shoots him in front of the mother. If you go to see the children, 8 years, 9 years, they hang them, they shoot them, because he writes something about Saddam.
They killed a lady, which is my age, she's 25 or something like that, because she was writing 25th of National Day. They saw the baby and they shot her.
They spoke of the panic of the retreating Iraqis, stealing cars to flee, destroying as they headed north.
And they burned all the hotels, which is the seaside. Hyatt Regency, Sats Hotel, all the places.
Then an interruption. The U.S. Marines had reached the American embassy.
Who are you?
I am War officer, Mossad Saleh from Kuwait. I have some American Marines here with me. We are going to get inside the American embassy. And we are waiting for you, yes.
This was what the President had wanted to hear. What he did not like to hear was Saddam Hussein's announcement of withdrawal, but not surrender.
Saddam's most recent speech is an outrage. He is not withdrawing. His defeated forces are retreating. He is trying to claim victory in the midst of a rout. And he is not voluntarily giving up Kuwait. He is trying to save the remnants of power and control in the Middle East by every means possible. And here, too, Saddam Hussein will fail. Saddam is not interested in peace, but only to regroup and fight another day. And he does not renounce Iraq's claim to Kuwait. To the contrary, he makes clear that Iraq continues to claim Kuwait.
Saddam, he said, showed no remorse. There'll be no ceasefire. The war is ahead of schedule.
The coalition will therefore continue to prosecute the war with undiminished intensity. As we announced last night, we will not attack unarmed soldiers in retreat. We have no choice but to consider retreating combat units as a threat and respond accordingly.
The best way to end the fighting, he said, is for Iraqi troops to take matters into their own hands.
It is time for all Iraqi forces in the theater of operations, those occupying Kuwait, those supporting the occupation of Kuwait, to lay down their arms. And that will stop the bloodshed.
The U.S. does not trust Saddam. As one official said, he can be beaten or he can surrender, but we have to hear him surrender. Within the last few minutes, more evidence on the road to Kuwait of the destruction of the Iraqi army. Troop carriers abandoned and burned. Light tanks destroyed. The turret tops open. Weapons left behind.
Or as you drove into Kuwait City?
Well, I've said a couple of times today that I'm not quite sure what the liberation of Paris was like, but I imagine the feeling of the people who did it was very similar to the feelings that we had. We wanted to get to Kuwait City today. It was our ultimate goal. And we set out from a point about 45 miles back, not knowing how far up the Allied convoy had got and whether, in fact, they'd be fighting on the road as there was yesterday to stop us. We kept driving. There was a great deal of military traffic as we closed in on the city. There was some military activity off to the west, I guess. There was a great deal of smoke from oil wells. At a certain point, the Saudi army simply stopped. They were at 30 kilometers or so away from Kuwait City. They stopped. We went ahead. and the freeway into Kuwait City was virtually clear except for burning hulks of, or a few burning hulks of Iraqi military vehicles, some abandoned Iraqi tanks, some abandoned cars, and a lot of Kuwaitis honking their horns and waving flags and flashing the V for Victory sign at us. As we got into the city itself, we could see that this place has taken a toll since August the 2nd. There's a lot of desolation around. The streets are blocked off. It's virtually deserted. Most of the population, we understand, has long since fled. There's no electricity here. The black you see behind me is as black as it's going to be until the sun comes up tomorrow. And though this is a liberated city, the Iraqis having left last night at midnight, it's still very much a city in transition. We hear some artillery rumbles now in the distance. We're not quite sure what the future is going to bring, but for the time being, Kuwait City is in the hands of the Kuwaitis.
Now, we've heard reports that there is fighting still going on, specifically in the area of the airport. Have you seen or heard any evidence of that?
Well, we didn't go near the airport on our trip in, but as I said, we have heard artillery in the distance. We don't know whose it is or what direction it's heading, and we hope it's not Iraqi and heading here. But in the city itself, things are very quiet. There was a great deal of jubilation, although tempered, obviously, by what these people have been through. Their city has suffered greatly. Their country has virtually been destroyed. Last night, out on the front, we saw this eerie orange glow filling the northern sky. As we came into the city, we could see what it was. It was burning oil wells, belching thick black smoke as far as we could see. Another artillery barrage went off somewhere off to my left.
And Bill, there've been
it's obviously going to take some time.
And there have been reports of Iraqi atrocities in Kuwait City. Have you any evidence of that?
We have people telling us that neighbors have been taken, that friends have been killed. Animals is how most of the people to whom we spoke described the Iraqis and their tenure here. It was not a very pleasant period. Interestingly, a couple of people, more than a couple of people, said to us, not only did the Iraqis do this to us, but we had been their friends. And they seem to have felt doubly betrayed, not only by the invasion and the occupation and all that has happened in that time, but that they considered themselves before that to have been friends and supporters of Iraq. And that seems to have been the cruelest blow here in this part of the world where allegiance is very important.